Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading the Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2, verse 45. I forgot, that people chant also? Or do I only chant? I can't remember this
You
thread.
can chant, Prabhu. You can chant.
No one else will chant.
Correct.
Okay. Try gunya vishaya veda nistray gunyo bhavajuna nirbando nitya sattvasto de yoga kshema atmavan. Try gunya vishaya veda nistray gunyo bhavajuna nirbando nitya sattvasto de yoga kshema atmavan. Traigunya Vishaveda Nistraigunya Bhavaja Nirbando Nitya Sattvasto Niyoga Kshema Atmava. Traigunya, pertaining to the three modes of material nature, Vishaya, on the subject matter, Veda, Vedic literatures, Nistraigunya, transcendental to the three modes of material nature, Bhava, be, Arjuna, O Arjuna, Nirbanda, without duality, nitya-sattva sta, in a pure state of spiritual existence, nir-yoga kshema, free from ideas of gain and protection, atmavan, established in the self. Translation. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature, or Arjuna. Become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes. In the three modes of material nature, they are meant for fruitive results which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, at the creation of the material world, gave Vedic wisdom, advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as Bhagavad-gita is part of the fifth Veda, namely Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material mode. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold, warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Om Gyanandasya Gyananjana Shavakaya Chaksuramitam Yinatasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupavidahmahyam Dadati Supatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Bhutapatikalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Bhagavatam Tam Tam Srivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitam Shah He Krishna Konasendo Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhikam Namoste Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram 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 Hari Hari Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavajuna Nirvando Nitya Sattvaso Yoga Kshema Atmavam. Okay. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature or human. Become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in his health. Prabhupada is alluding to various, you could say, broad subject matters and specific subject matter. For instance, he is citing Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. And even Krishna is referring Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Etamavyavanishchitai. In later in the Gita, Krishna even refers to the Brahma Sutra, which, Krishna doesn't really have to refer to anything. He's the supreme authority. He can just, but he doesn't just do, he can do anything, but he refers. He's showing the example. Yad yad achariti shrestha. Ideal personality who always cites, Krishna takes advice from other personalities, like Uddhava sometimes, or others, and he refers to the Shastras. On the other hand, he's saying everything is emanating from me. So he doesn't have to do that, but he does the same thing. If I did not act, everything would be put to ruin, the whole. So he's acting, and he's giving this reference to Brahma Jigyasa or Brahma Sutra. And Prabhupada's giving that, because Krishna is giving also. And in other places, I am the compiler. So Vyasadeva is mentioned in 10th chapter of the Gita that he is a manifestation, Krishna says, of me, Vyasa. So, and at the end of the Gita, also, Vyasa Prasada Shutabhyam, that Sanjaya mentioned that he is, by the mercy of Vyas, he is able to see or perceive the whole Bhagavad-gita battlefield. I'm sure that wasn't so pleasant, but he could understand and transmit it to Dhritarashtra. Vyasa Prasada Shutabhyam. Prabhupada quoted that also in reference that when some persons were complimenting or praising Prabhupada, that you are a manifestation of Vyas, and you're spreading the Vedas all over the world like that. Prabhupada said, yes, not really, but you can say that if you want. Vyasa Prasada, by the mercy of Vyas. And Vyas himself, he was admonished, you could say chastised by Narad Muni, that and then Narad Muni gave him so many instructions. Samadhi nanusmara yad vichestika. You should just enter into samadhi, and for the benefit of all others, you should compose the Bhagavatam, because he was feeling not so good. He had composed this Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutras himself, and also Mahabharata. So Jigyasitam Sasampanam, there's several verses there in the 4th chapter, then the 5th chapter in the first canto, where this conversation is going on between Narad Muni and Vyasa. So now you've composed this whole Brahma Sutra, but somehow you don't feel complete. So then he induced him to compose the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then otherwise, he says, Jugupsitam Dharmakate Nishasito. The way you've given Mahabharata, people will misinterpret it. And the Brahma Sutra is like very high up for most people. You have to consider Sri Sudha Vijabamduna Munaya Kripaya. And he was full of mercy, Vyasadeva. And so he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. We can understand from the very first verse, or a couple of verses, that where it says Janmadhyasyato, because in the beginning, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, as Prabhupada is citing here, that one should inquire what is Brahman. So Arjuna Arjuna is in the middle of the battlefield. He was like, wow, if we were in the middle of the battlefield, just about to fight this big war, especially against our enemies. I don't know if I could think too straight and be hearing, but he was somehow hearing this. So Brahma Sutra Tato Brahma Jigyasa is the first aphorism, and then next thing says Janmadhyasya. One must, if he's a human being. Tato Brahma. Sometimes we lose the plot and forget that how merciful someone like Prabhupada is, that in the mood of Vyas, he's brought forth all these books. Who could read these books? I was thinking about that when Srinivas Acharya had gone to see Gadadhar Pandit in his last days, and he wanted to get a copy of the Bhagavatam. He wanted his copy of the Bhagavatam, but it was all messed up and him crying. He had to go all the way back to Navadvip just to get a scribe that or somebody to get a copy. So it wasn't easy, but Prabhupada is given all these books in this mood of Vyas. And so we're dependent on Vyas as the manifestation. So, and throughout Brahma Sutra, one has to be quite learned to be able to understand what is the Brahma Sutra. It's just in it, Mahaprabhu has revealed that the Sambandha Videya and Prayojana are there, and especially when we get the commentaries by Baladev Vidyabhushan, because there's the well-known story how these sadhus, this other line, Ramanandis, who were keeping their deities in Jaipur, they wouldn't accept the Gaudiyas at one point, and they were trying to convince the king there that they should only worship the deity, several deities. So Baladev was sent by Vishwanath Chakrabarti there to have a bit of a discussion. When we read either Vishwanath Chakrabarti's commentaries or Baladev Vidyabhushan commentaries, then you get the idea that we wouldn't want to be arguing with those guys. So within a very short time, Baladev Vidyabhushan composed that Govinda Bhashya, because just by telling this other sampradaya that, well, no, we have our commentary on Brahma Sutra, that's okay, we have the Bhagavatam, somehow it wasn't a strong enough argument for them. So Govinda revealed that commentary to Govinda Bhashya, but without being fully conversant with all these Upanishads that Prabhupada mentions in this purport. Or is it this purport or another one I was reading? Yeah, in the form of the Upanishad. Offered in the form of the Upanishads, are parts of different Vedas. So there's the 4 Vedas, and within them, not that I'm expert in knowing all which Vedas are attached, which Upanishads are attached to which Upanishads, or which Upanishads are attached to which Veda itself. But they're the highly philosophical parts. And Prabhupada mercifully gave us the Isha Upanishad in the beginning. There's 8 principal Upanishads. There's a Gopal Upanishad. Many times we see references to Mundaka Upanishad and the Katha Upanishad, and practically, if one is paying attention, he can find many references without knowing Sanskrit or going there and translate it himself or something like that, and can bathe his mind in these references. But if you're more ambitious, then you can find other translations of the whole Upanishads. So there's one verse referenced, Durehi Upanishad, Hi Upanishadam, Dure Harikatamita. Just by reading Upanishad, Dure Harikatamita, they're not nectar, Amrit, Hari, nectar words about Krishna. They're not, they will be, Dure means very far. You'll be very far by only reading Upanishad if you don't understand. And of course, we have our misleaders in Kali Yuga, Ajya Kori Das. That's Shankaracharya. He's given a Sharirat Bhashya on Vedanta Sutra. Jiva Nishta Lagi Sutra Kolo Das. That says there in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Vyasadeva has composed the Jiva Nishta Lagi Sutra. Sutra refers to the Brahma Sutra. Vyasa has composed Brahma Sutra with the specific objective of delivering all jivas. Jivas, nishta means to be delivered or free, liberated. Jiva nishta lagi means for the cause of liberation. He has composed it, but it says Jiva nishta lagi sutra goidas. That if one takes and reads the Shankaracharya version, then he will suffer greatly. Sutra Kodadas. Can't recall the second line right now, but it's a very important shloka that probably we quote, and it's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jivya Nishta Lagi Sutra Kodadas. So we don't bring our mind. Sometimes the devotee scholars, they might have to study that. They might have to just see what's going on. But even it says, even a Mahabhagavat might fall down by reading it. So then you might think, well, that's pretty potent. So anyway, we stay away from it. I don't have any desire to study this Mayavad. So Lord Chaitanya, when discussing with Prakashananda, the Brahma Sutra, convinced Prakashananda and many of his followers that the whole Brahma Sutra commentary by Shankaracharya was twisted. And also we see there Tapa Mishra and the other devotees, they were very concerned about these Mayavadis. And so when Lord Chaitanya went and kind of crushed them in the nicest possible way, they were very relieved. But it's also said that they're considered Kanishta in this regard, Kanishta, that they couldn't defeat these Mayavadis. So then I would say that I'm definitely Kanishta. I don't think I could argue with them about Mayavadis on that level. So many Mayavadis, very learned. That's all they do. They just study. We might be chanting. Well, of course, we're reading and all that, but they're very minutely studied. But what did himself, Shankaracharya, say? Bhajagovinda, Muhamate, Sampapte, Sanhite, Kare, Dukrina Karane. At the time of leaving your body, all your Dukrina Karane means finding the roots of words, etc., studying the minuteness of Sanskrit grammar and trying to interpret and juggle words. That won't do it for you. Bhajagovinda, Mudha, rather he called them Mudha Mate. It's there in that famous stotram that he composed. There's many of them. Prabhupada quoted several of them also. I can recall Shankaracharya lamenting. Prabhupada said he was lamenting that in the beginning, when one is young, Yovane, Juvati, he's simply chasing, simply interested in mating with the opposite sex. This is Shankaracharya's lamentation. Then later on, when he's a child, he's simply playing. When then he's going the opposite sex thing. And then later he gets old. Kopi Nalagna, finally. Can I what? Okay. I don't know if this where the mic is up on my thing here. We're supposed to have a mic included with the camera. Previously, it was okay. I don't know if it's maybe I have to set something down here. I don't know where that is. Okay, I'll just talk louder because I don't see the settings right now. Huh? All right. So, Lord Chaitanya convinced these impersonalists. Um, he had special superpowers. When they just saw him, they were very pleased. They had heard about him. In fact, they were very offensive, especially that Prakash Ananda. It's a very important chapter, chapter 7 in the Adi Lila. That came out back in 73 because one of the primary conversations, 5 primary bosses, Sambhav, rather, within Chaitanya is this conversation with Prakash Ananda, and where he converts him by bringing all these arguments against Mayavada. Mayavadam Asat Shastram Prichanam Bodham Uchate, that it's simply um, covered Buddhism. Buddhism is, of course, nihilism. Elsewhere in Chaitanya that is defeated soundly by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in the purport, where he described 9 basic principles of Buddhism, which self-contradictory, that we are going on. There's different bodies. There's no solution. You have to dissolve your body, and then so many things. So the Vaishnavas, headed by Lord Chaitanya, they call themselves Vedantists, as though they were the only ones who could study the Veda. Probably said, but the Vaishnavas, they are they're the actual Vedantists. In fact, the impersonalist conception is Vedanta in the sense that Danta means teeth, and um, they also means without. So their teeth have been knocked out by the strong arguments of the Vaishnavas. If so many Vaishnava Sampradayas, the Madhvas and Ramanuja, they came to, appeared to destroy this Mayavadama Satshastram, Prichanam Bodhamucha. They, Paratma Jivayo Aikyam, that's one of their main ideas. That Para Atma here is described Atmavan, one should be happy within himself, but the impersonalist idea is that this self will merge and give up his personality, which has already been spoken about by Krishna. Natrevaham jatu nasam natvam mimi janadipa. That the soul is going on individually and everlastingly. Avinasi antavanti me deha, different than the body. So here in the beginning of this purport, all material activities involve action and reaction in the 3 modes of material nature. So Karanam Guna Sangasha, I think that's in the 13th chapter. Karanam Guna Sangasha, Sarasa Yoni Janmasha. One is by his interaction with the modes of nature, one is getting more and more entangled. Asana Piklesha, the Asade, getting more and more bodies, as Rishabdev is saying, in a little more detailed way. And in these modes of nature are described in the 15th chapter, Guna Pravala. Guna Pravala. Adas Chodvam Pashatas Pashasaka. Udvamudamadha Shakam. The banyan tree is described there. How one should become free of and cut this, the root of this. With how does he cut it? Yadamudyasi, the karma grantani, this karma grantani knot is cut. Chindanti kovidas pasha. Cut with the sword. Asina means the sword of knowledge. And so more and more Krishna is introducing so much knowledge. When we read about these gunas, the gunas can also be a good thing. In the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Narottam Das Thakur is, uh, he's lamenting that where can I find such a person as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great dancer? Pashani Kuti Bo Mata, Anale Pashni. He's lamenting that where it has Mora Swarup, Rup, Sanatan, where are they all gone? Raghunath, the savior of the fallen souls. Um, they're so far beyond the simple impersonal idea, all these great personalities. So, but they're full of good qualities. They show nothing but good qualities. Um, so similarly, Nityananda is so Nitai Gunamani, Lochan Das Thakur is extolling his glories. He's the jewel Gunamani of all good qualities. So the qualities are not bad. The word quality itself is referring to these three modes of qualities, but these three modes, Tapatrayan, Muram, these modes are giving us these three types of miseries, which the Shastra, by reading Shastra, armed with the Bhagavatam, with Bhagavad-gita, we can cut karmani bandini manusharoke. We can, asanga shastrena, the Shastra is the weapon of detachment. So Krishna is recommending there in the first verses of 15th chapter. Asanga shastrena, with the weapon of detachment, sometimes with the weapon of knowledge. And Mahaprabhu has come to give these things. It's just flowing from everything, all of his leelas, Chaitanya leelas, Amrita, this nectar is flowing down. Vairagya, Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. Only by bhakti, Krishna is saying in Gita, can one accomplish all this. It seems rather, if someone, sometimes we think that these impersonal yogis, they only take like certain chapters, like the half-hand logic. They take certain chapters out of Bhagavad-gita. That must be very perplexing and miserable thing, if one doesn't get the entire Bhagavad-gita. He only reads up to the 6th chapter, and it's still wonderful, but why would you cut the hand in one place? Why don't you want to hear Maya Saktamana Partha, Yogam Yanjamana, Asanksham Samadam Yata Why don't you want to hear that you should only think of Krishna and become attached? Bring your mind to Krishna. Oh, maybe that's very difficult. So Krishna is giving so many opportunities in 12th chapter, especially where he's discussing, well, okay, if you can't immediately think of me, then just act like detached. Tasmara Sapta Satatam, in another place, maybe in the 5th chapter. Always act detached. Tasmara Sapta Satatam, and Paramatmoti Puru. You'll get the Param, the Supreme, simply by acting detached, as it says here. And here it says, free from all anxiety. And one who is free from all anxiety, he pleases Krishna and doesn't put others into anxiety. Sarvabhutatma Bhutatma, that's another verse in the 5th chapter. Sarvabhutatma Bhuta, Korvanapina Lipite, someone who's acting, who's able to please all others. Sarvabhutatma Bhutatma, knowing that they're all spirit souls. One cannot please others unless he has this realization. Drishta Evatmaneshwar. And in the beginning, in the Ishopanishad, Yasmin tu sarvani bhutani atma, is speaking immediately about atma evabu vijanataha tatrakomaha. He's through the illusion. If one takes very seriously the Upanishads, even just the Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad is there, it says right there. It is about Isha. Isha Vashamidam Sarvam Madhvidakashis. Don't take more. Be happy. Santushta Satatam Yogi. And also in the Santushta Satatam Yogi, Tatma Dhridanishtaya. He is very determined. He doesn't require anything. Or we look to our examples of our acharyas like Madhavendra Puri. He was not taking anything. He got the direct darshan of Gopal Krishna and Vrindavan. Um, he wanted simply to serve. He's already quite a senior person, but immediately he was ready to go on the order of Gopal in the dream. You should go to Puri and get some. Imagine going to Puri just for the sandalwood. I gather it was difficult to get. It's not like going like nowadays to downtown Delhi or down to Lloyd Bazaar. You have to go there and get. But he pleased Krishna by his selfless service. Therefore, the Pujari had the dream. There's one Madhavendra Puri. You bring that cup. I've hidden it for him. He was just thinking a little bit that, oh, if I could get that cup and if I taste it, I'll just cook it. And that for him, that was just sent too far out, too much. No. Why am I thinking? This is a desire for myself. These personalities, Govinda, when Mahaprabhu fell, took rest in the doorway, and Govinda was a little perturbed. What should I do now? I have to massage him, but he's in blocking. I put the cloth over him, and but that for to go out, take his lunch. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, so why don't you go take lunch? No, I can't step over you. But for his service he was doing. So Madhavendra Puri, he was not asking for anything. He was sitting in the marketplace always. When Gopal Krishna came in Vrindavan, he was not taking. Oh, some of the women here told me that you are fasting. So nobody fasts in this village, we give you milk. So this is Yadricha Labha Santushto. Santushto means always satisfied. Santushto. Satatam Yogi, that word is used a few times in here. Always very satisfied. And Santushta Satatam Yogi, Yadricha. And Yadricha means, Icha means desire. But Yadricha means that it comes of its own desire. The Krishna is actually providential. Yadricha, whatever. Prabhupada was like that. Whatever Krishna is providing, then yes, but he was also ambitious. He was not simply, and he's even said, well, if Bhaktivedanta Swami was sitting under a tree somewhere in Navadvip or in Mayapur, who will come there? So for preaching, then he was rewarded over and over again. Like he would say, for instance, when Prabhupada went to that Fisher Mansion the first time, so they said, oh, Prabhupada, we thinking to buy this building. Prabhupada was looking around, very nice place. They wanted so much, $350,000 or something dollars. Prabhupada tried to get them to donate it. Oh, they were like shocked. Swamiji, no, sorry, we cannot donate. But so Prabhupada said, I did not have $300,000. I did not have 3 paisa. Prabhupada said, I did not have 3 paisa in my pocket. Nothing. But then he said, Ambarish came forward and another lady, like a Shivanti, and there was done like that. So, and then Prabhupada was speaking about Mayapur also one time, who has a property like this. Very amazing thing. So Prabhupada said, previously I came to your country with like 40 rupees. I had got off. I had nothing. Actually, literally 40. You can't have exchange even. And in those days, he had something. I don't know. It was sent. Some man came. So everything was. So Prabhupada was always depending like that on Krishna and detached. Okay, so if there's some defeat, siddhya siddhyo samobhuta samatvam. One who is samatvam, he conquers this birth and death. There's that later in the 5th chapter. And all these chapters are full of nectar verses about this on this subject, and all the subjects they overlap, and it's ihaivatar jita sargo, ihaivatar jita sargo, yesam samyestatam mana, nirdoshan he samam brahma. He is situated in Brahman, who has is completely dependent on Krishna. Jita Sargo means he conquers creation, birth and death. Nirdosha means he has no dosha, no fault. You're faultless if you're totally dependent. And the examples are so many in the Bhagavatam. Rishabdev wandering, the sage who was speaking with Prahlad Maharaj, he was quite chubby, although he was lying there doing nothing. A jagala vritti. He had no business. He said, "I've quit all business. I've seen that people are running around and simply after some sense gratification, so I've given that up. And I'm lying here." But he spoke in such a broad way. Actually, he didn't want to speak with anybody when he heard the voice of Prahlad Maharaj. He was very pleased. Oh, just to hear that voice is like saffron particles. So he heard, imagine hearing Prahlad Maharaj speaking. So he was very stimulated. He said, "Oh, usually I don't speak, but you're speaking so wonderful." So he explained, sometimes I'm lying here, people might throw something. He was performing a jagalavriti, which is python. What to speak of running after, iti die, the whole material world is simply running after so many things. And unable to find any satisfaction. Man, he was just lying there. And Prahlad Maharaj says, Nunam pramapte. They're all mad, running. Kud vikarma. They're creating this vikarma. Not even karma. Karma is bad, but the vikarma. Doing so many things, bad things, vikarma, kurute vikarma, yet indriya, simply for pleasing the senses. So, atmendriya pitti bancha nam kam. If one wants to please his material body, the atma can also mean material body, it can mean the soul, it can mean several things like that. But if one is simply after trying to satisfy the body, this is called kam, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Krishnendriya Pitti, Dari Prem Nam, this is called prema, when one is simply trying to satisfy the senses of Krishna. So fortunately, we get so many examples of persons who are, especially we saw Prabhupada, we see our present sadhus, some are very advanced, they're also following in the footsteps. And so this is the standard. When activities for sense gratification, karma kanda are chapter. Now, Prabhupada uses the word chapter. It doesn't refer to a specific chapter in a book, but chapter in the broad sense. Like our Chandas Thakur, he says that karma kanda, jnana kanda, kevala vishera bandha. All these sections of the Vedas are like poison pots. Simply, kevala means that's all. There's nothing else there. Don't even bother. Veda Guhyani Hritpate, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, described by the Sutta Goswami and the sages. Veda Guhyani Hritpate. Guhyani means he's in the heart. Krishna's there waiting, and he's hidden. If simply by studying the Vedas, one will not find it. Of course, nowadays we don't even find people studying. But Veda means somebody now. Sometimes Prabhupada said Veda is like Veda pranihito dharma. The Veda is meant for creating, dharma, telling us our activities. Why is it? Anyway, so Veda pranihito dharma. Dharmas to be anything not in Vedas, that is definitely a dharma. That's in the conversation between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. Veda pranihita dharma swayambhurti shushama. Directly, the Vedas are coming from the breathing of Vishnu, or from the. So everything is Veda, but Prabhupada said you cannot trace Veda. Veda simply means knowledge. So anything could be, there's knowledge, there's Veda concerning the Dharma Veda, like we hear in the Gita, or the Ayurveda, the medical science. So many aspects of Vedas and angas of the Vedas. Anything not in Veda, then is definitely We don't deal with it. But even then, Prabhupada said, you cannot trace Veda any more than you can, like a child crying. When can you say that babies cry when they were born? It's always, they're always. Um, so those who are Yastam Veda Veda that know Veda, they know Krishna. Just like Krishna says, I am the compiler of Vedanta. I know Veda as it is. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Anyone who knows me, he understood. It's understood. Janati Tatvam. He knows everything. One of Brahma's prayers. Janati Atapite Deva Padambu Gadvaya. One who knows these two lotus feet of Krishna. Atapite Deva Padambu Gadvaya. Prasadale Shanagahita. If he wants to know, then he has to get just a tiny trace of mercy of Krishna. Prasada Lesha. Lesha is the tiny trace. Prasada Lesha Anagahita. Janati Tatvam Bhagavam Hino. Charam Vichinvan. Others they might struggle for who knows, ever. Even the greatest Muni Pungavanam mentioned in Brahma Samhita, they can go at the speed of mind till they cannot come. Avachincha Tatve, those lotus feet as pastimes of Krishna, the form of Krishna will always remain just beyond the grasp. Only by Bhaktya Ikayam Gratya can one understand. Karmakrin Mat Paramo Mad Bhaktas Sangha. So Krishna is giving so many specific instructions. After he talks about this banyan tree, then he gives the method how to cut these roots that are rooting us in the material modes. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivitta kama dandada mukta sukaduka sangha gachantya mudha padamabhyam tat. In that 15th chapter, wonderful verse, one of my all-time favorites. I guess the whole Gita should be our favorite, but it's such a wonderful verse there where he's telling how nirmana, immediately he says, amanina manadena, same as Lord Chaitanya. No respect, not demanding respect, not demanding anything. Na dana jana sundari. Lord Chaitanya is summarizing everything in his 8 prayers. So Krishna is saying there, nirmana moha, done with illusion, that's a big thing. Done with false ego, my God. That you can work on that for a couple of days. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha, all bad association. Nirmana moha jita sangha adhyatma nitya, then he's situated in the self adhyatma nitya, then he vitta kama, and all kama. How can we give that up? It's perplexing. And the whole material world, everyone is running after. But Krishna is providing. He's this Nityo Nityanam, Chaitana Chaitananam, Yo Vidadati Kama. He is providing whatever we're desiring. Even if you don't ask for it. That's one of the verses that Narad Muni told to Vyasadeva. Tasyaga hita prayate kovido na labhyate gyan na labhyate. Don't, whatever you desire, you're going to get it. You're desiring, you don't want misery, but it comes. So you don't have to try for happiness. You'll get that. But those become transcendental. So I hate to pray. Kovido, one who's Kovido is learned. Anyata. Kalena Savatra Gabira Ramasa. By the course of time, everything comes. So Prabhu he was the embodiment. He was the Mahabhagavat. He showed this, went on the boat, gave up everything. So we have so many examples. Even someone like this Chitraketu, he spoke about these modes in his Chitraketu in the 6th canto. We know the story, he was kind of laughing when he saw Lord Shiva with Parvati. So he said, oh, ha ha. He thought that was pretty funny because here he is, the greatest personality. He's got this Parvati in his lap. Somehow or other, he thought it was funny. And apparently, Parvati didn't take it as too much fun because she cursed him. But when he was cursed, he said, Guna Pravaha Etasmin. He said, these flow of material nature, who cares? It's going, it's coming. It's just like a river flowing this way and that way. What do I care? Kasa pa ka. What is a curse? And what is it that anugraha? What is anugraha? Madanugraha paramam. Krishna is giving the special mercy here in Gita. But even then, in the material sense, Chitriketu said, oh, I don't care. Curse come. He didn't fight against it. Neither Parikit Maharaj throughout the whole Bhagavatam. And he was cursed probably for something even more insignificant, just he's the king after all. Some little boy cursed him. Taraskrita, Vipralabda is described there. Even Parikit Maharaj, someone on the level of Parikit Maharaj, he is cursed, neglected, Vipralabda, Kshitas, Hata Api, even killed. And he was killed, ultimately. Killed by the snake bird. Hey, that's okay, he said, when all those sages were there at the Ganga. And Sukadeva, Tammopayatam Patiyantis Vipra. All you great learned Vipras, Brahmanas, I am simply surrendered. Ganga Chadevi Kutachittami. I'm surrendered to all of you. I'm surrendered to the Ganga. That's it. I'm finished with this. I mean, he was the king of the world. King of the world. He's not like some street guy or something. Shivaya Lokasya Bhavaya Bhuktaye. Everyone was dependent. His body, his life, but his body, his life, everything was meant for the benefit of all others in his kingdom. Still, he said, let this snake bird, Kuhukas Takshakova, let it, this magical, whatever magical thing. And I guess he was a pretty potent kid and he created this magical snake bird. He could even appear as a Brahmana and suddenly flaming, such a virulent type poison that created, you see the picture of Brigham bursting into flames. Let that happen, I don't care, he said. But Gayata Vishnu Gata, Dashat Palam, Dashat means biting. Dashat Palam, that's okay. Dashat Palam Gayata, just keep chanting the Bhagavatam, just keep chanting the Bhagavatam, that's all. Parikita Bhaved Bhayaski Kirtane. Shravane Parikita Bhaved. He's the emblem of hearing. Sukadeva is the emblem of speaker. He's the example given. Parikita Bhaved Bhayaski Kirtane. Prahlad, another one. And Bali, all those great examples we get. He offered everything. Bali Rabu Krishna, he offered everything. Okay, take my head. So Bhagavatam is full of all these examples. Guna Pravaha Etasmin. And Shiva was glorifying even Chitraketu, saying, okay, Drishta Yashishu Shromi. Just see Shushomi, he's referring to his wife, a beautiful woman. You're so beautiful. But just see Mahatmyam, Mahatmanam, Britya Brityanam, Nishpriham. I mean, Nishpriham. These great Vaishnavas, they have no material desire. You curse him, he doesn't care. Just see Mahatmyam, the glories of these Vaishnavas. They don't care. So we have our examples, and they're always trying to put in the material world, they're trying to give us some other nonsense rascal examples that we should follow this. Just see, we have such great examples, but they want to follow some nonsense, useless, insignificant rascal politician or some other Hollywood, Bollywood, or something like that. But we will stick to our examples here. Arjuna, Yudhisthira, our Chitraketu, our Parikit, Sukadeva, Rishabdev, Nitai, Nityananda, Gunamani, Nitai Gunamani, Aniya Prema, Aniya Banya. What does he say? Prema Banya. Yeah. He has brought prem. Aniya Prema Banya Vashailo Avani. Avani means the world. He is the jewel of good quality. Such good qualities that when someone would see Nitai, would see Gora, they would just feel ecstatic immediately. They'd want to be like that. How can you be like that? So they have to follow. Example, you want to, you have to give up. Sera se magia vishaya. Magia, sera se magia. What is it? Sera se magia. Magia. One has to give up sense gratification if he wants to. Probably said one thing if you want to experience this bhakti rasa sar, want to become knower, Gorangira Duti Pada, for one who has only possession is the two lotus feet, Gorangira Duti Pada. Then he can get, this is Narottam saying song, he's saying, Jarkana Prabhashila, Gorangira Nama Loy Jarkani. When the name of Goranga enters your ear and you desire to run after that, maybe we can't run after directly after Gaur, but Dai Tavapati. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I'm running after my Guru. Yoga Te Vichare Kichana. You don't find any good quality in me, but I only one thing. Even Rupa Goswami says, I don't have any qualification. Just see, how can he say that? But he says, I don't have any qualification. I have only even no jnanam, no bhakti, not prema, what to speak of prema, not prema, shavanari bhakti. I don't have prema. I need a qualification. This is Rupa Goswami speaking, not prema. Matuyo nashki papatma. His mood is, I am the most sinful. You have to save me. Save me. I'm so sinful. If we can maintain that, or even a tiny fraction, there's no way to do it, but we try over and over just by reading about it again and again, hearing again and again. Shravan Jale, Shravan Kirtan Jale, it is like the watering, that is watering the kripa of devotion. Korea Sechan is sprinkling this hearing and speaking. Shravan Kirtan Jale, Korea Sechan. And that is what's going on. I probably organized these classes. They wanted people to participate and hear. And some people become very anxious to hear and chant, giving so many classes. Just like we have Prangavinda. He just gave 20-day course, just wound it up, I think, on Gopanim or something, just before Gopanim. He gave at least 24-day course on Bhakti Shastri and so many things. And then yesterday he said, oh, we're doing now 20 days on Harinam Chintamani. I said, wow. And so he does, for an hour or two a day. And then in between, he's giving so many classes. Very anxious to always speak and hear, reading constantly. And so we have some very good examples like that. And so we should look to the good examples. Satsanga Charikaino Asate Balas. Take the Narottam says, I gave up the good association. He's lamenting that he gave up good association. He is the best association himself, but still, he's lamenting that. Satsanga Charikaino Asate Balas. Tekarani Lagila Karma Bonds. This entanglement of karma bandha, that will ensue. Lokoyam karma bandhana. Described there in the third chapter. That as soon as we give up, this Prabhupada said, as soon as you give up Krishna, then immediately Maya says, that's okay, I'll take over from here. The Maya is very powerful. Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mama Eva Daiti Gunamai. This is the Gunamai. And all the gunas are described in the 14th chapter. Sattvat Samjayate Jnana. One is in the mode of goodness. He's after knowledge, at least he's after knowledge. Sattvam Vishuddham, Lord Shiva has that verse. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shaktitam. After the pure mode, beyond goodness, pure goodness. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva. This is the Vasudeva stage. Vasudeva Shaktitam. Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapasudeva Paraveda. Vasudeva is he's the goal of the Vedas. He's the goal of tapasya, the goal of yajna. Okay, so there's going to be a discussion soon here. Hari Bol. We have the questions and answers.
Does anyone have questions for Pushkar? We have, I mean, you can speak on, if you like, until 7, so you could take, but questions can be now or at the end or both.
I'm not hearing anybody. Is anyone there, Atma?
Pushkar, you hear me? Sasha, you hear me, right?
Anyone has questions or Haribol?
Yes, I hear Atman Yodhana Prabhu.
Pushkar,
you go to some yajna right now. If anyone doesn't have a question, then I will just wait till next time.
We need to tell him
there's a
Haribol, no one speaking. All right.
Can you hear us now, Pushkar?
Yes.
You can hear now?
Yeah, my speaker went off. I forgot to look at it. There's too many things for my small brain.
Okay, good. Okay. So does anyone have, so we can go till have class until towards 7, but questions could be now or later. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they wanted to make now?
I have a question.
Can you hear Lajja Sheila Pushkar Prabhu?
I hear you.
Okay, Lajja, just speak up, okay?
Sure. So I always worry that sometimes that my questions might be taken, or my question might be something that I've taken out of context. But at one point you mentioned, and I've heard this before, that a devotee that's free of all anxiety is very pleasing to Krishna.
Krishna says it. Yasmin no vegetate lokalokana vegetate. One who doesn't give anxiety and himself doesn't suffer anxiety. He's very Yomad Bhakta Samepriya. He's Priya means very dear. So if you see the 12th chapter, the last especially 10, 8, 9 verses, these are different qualifications of pure devotion.
So I guess my question is that if someone does have periods of anxiety, does that mean that Krishna is not pleased with that devotee?
Therefore, Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also said that there should be anxiety, right? You know what? It reminds me that Uttama Shloka told a story, I've heard it so many times, that when they were going to go get the Toronto temple, right? And it was very nice. And Prabhupada heard about it and he said, he heard the price and he said, well, it's too expensive. Why purchase anxiety? So then he came to Toronto and he saw it. Then he said, get it. So then the devotees and Uttama Shloka said, but Prabhupada, you said, why purchase anxiety? And Prabhupada said, there must be anxiety. So this is a different type of anxiety. It's not mundane anxiety. It's anxiety that we have to please Krishna instead of ourselves. So that anxiety is okay. Just like Madhavendra Puri. I mean, he actually was an anxiety. I mean, he wanted to there's some anxiety there. He wanted to taste that special kheer, and he wanted to bring it all the way to Vrindavan, but Gopal told him that's okay, you can drop it off there with Gopinath. I'm not different. He's not different than me. But the anxiety is there. There's always some anxiety with in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. You'll see that the devotees are so anxious. What happened to Lord Chaitanya? He jumped into the ocean. They're freaking out. Can you imagine? you're anxious over something. They're anxious over the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He jumped into the ocean. They're thinking he'll drown. Mother Yasoda is so much in anxiety. Krishna is fighting with this huge reptile, weird snake, whatever it is, serpent. There's so much anxiety, spiritual anxiety. So that type of anxiety. Or how about that Ramdas Brahmana? He was in so much anxiety. He was so absorbed in this Leela that Sita was kidnapped by this demon Ravana that he couldn't even eat, couldn't even cook. He invited Lord Chaitanya over, so obviously he had some idea that he was going to cook. But then he fell into this samadhi, this thinking. He was so absorbed in this pastime that so Lord Chaitanya said, "What's going on? You know, why you invite me here that you don't cook?" He said, "No, Lord, my Lord, Sita has been kidnapped by the demon." You can imagine he's so much absorbed. And Lord Chaitanya was in anxiety to help him. When he found that page describing, he had it copied, and he brought that page back with him. It was like a few hundred miles just to show the Brahmin how. Just it was not the Sita, it was actually the Maya Sita that he captured. So there's that spiritual anxiety. Those are things that came off the top of my head. So, when people lived in the temple in the old days, it's always there was not so much anxiety, I have to admit, but there was something anxiety. Yes. Oh, we have to get up. It's modified anxiety, but that type of anxiety is ecstatic. To wake up in the morning. Well, you're anxious. Prabhupada said we're anxious that these rascals. He was writing in his last purports in the 10th canto that they may try to stop this Krishna conscious movement, but Prabhupada said, no, it can't be. And Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm not in anxiety for myself, but because why? Because I am chanting the glories of Krishna all the time. So not only is it Amrita, but he says Maha Amrita and Magna, fully absorbed. Mahamrita, Magna Chitta, my consciousness is fully absorbed in this type of nectar. But still, I'm in anxiety because these rascals, Shoche means he is lamenting. So Chetito Vimukha, for those who are Vimukha Chetasa, they've turned their mukha, their face away from Krishna. Vimukha Chetasa in Indriyarjan, they're simply chasing sense others. Maya Sukaya Varamudhate. And they're doing all these incredibly insane, things like building these huge cities and industrial enterprise, poisoning the world. When you hear some of these things, my wife was reading about this, these whatever PCP poisons, and then still poisoning people. At one point, they poisoned hundreds of babies in certain areas. Just don't care. Well, there's so much anxiety to produce. They think they're such great person, and nothing's so everything's Om Purnamada Purnamidam. It's already perfect, you rascal. Why are you creating some nonsense havoc and bad karma for yourself and destroying the world? It's described there. Ugra karma kshayaya. Kshaya jagata. Ahita means they're doing all horrible works. Ugra karma. Ahita means not for the benefit, for the destruction. Kshaya jagata of the world. Jagata, the whole universe, really. Kshaya jagata ahita. Etam drishtam avashtabhya. That means their drishtam, their vision is lost. Nashtatna Alpa Buddha, they're Alpa Buddha, they're tiny, stupid brain. They think they're big, this, that. They're creating so much nonsense. So, I don't know if that might have answered something. But yeah, there's some anxiety, spiritual anxiety. Anything else? All right, then. I can see my painting on Atmanyabedan's wall.
Prabhupada.
My house is under a slight construction, and getting a new countertop's a big deal around here in this stinking little house. And it looks fantastic and beautiful. Granite as opposed to Formica, so a lot of things are discombobulated.
Let's see, Prabhupada.
Okay, so that's it. Not we're done.
Okay, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
All right. All right. Better luck next time. Maybe I'll say something better.
No, it was very, very nice. Yeah, so that's a painting of Srila Prabhupada. So it's possible that some of you aren't familiar with it, but Pushkar's everyone's got a service or a duty or a job or an occupation. So Pushkar Prabhu's service that he spends his time with, day in, day out, more or less, is painting paintings about Krishna and his devotees and the incarnations of Krishna.
There's a friend.
What's that? Is that on wood?
It's on some kind of board that came in some packaging material, but I hate to see any white thing, I'll work on sometimes a really inferior thing just because I don't like to see it wasted. So this is one of those cases where I can't remember. It came, I thought it was pretty substantial. It was packed in with something. Now I've lost track. So it's not easy to work on it, but gradually, because I built up some color, I'm using color pencil, watercolor pencils and watercolors and inks and some white acrylic. So it's a
That's pretty unusual, isn't it? To use that combination of different types of
mixed media. No, mixed media. People use different mixed media, pencils, pens, paint, all mixed. It's called mixed media.
All together.
Yeah, mixed media. You look up, just Google mixed media, and you'll get 10 trillion probably entries of.
Really?
So, yeah, mixed media. I mean, you can't use oil with it. You can use acrylic. Oil would be weird. You could, but people don't. When they use mixed media, it's like stuff that's pencils, pens, it dries real fast, and in the future, you never know, the thing could disintegrate quick. I've got some other, here's just a pencil, pen. This is just pencil and pen. I got pads full of these guys all over the joint. So,
that was Lord Chaitanya. That was Lord Chaitanya?
Yeah, it was really. Here's another one. I've been working off and on this one for a long time, but I'm still working on it.
Tell us the story of that painting, please.
It's just a portrait of Lord Chaitanya in the garden in Navadvip.
Okay, so this is also before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas.
Yeah, he's got his hair and his fancy earrings. Of course, a sannyasi would never wear such a thing.
And so that one, did you draw that because you saw some other painting of Lord Chaitanya?
No, these things evolve out of my brain. I start doodling, and like here, I'm still working on this after several years. Also, I have about 100 like this that I'm working on. Some are even smaller, like half the size of this. Here are the gopis. They're Krishna's just leaving them there, and they're feeling dejected and ecstasy, separation. And it's good if I see this. It looks like a mirror. In a mirror, you can see the mistakes in something more easily. And now I'm seeing a lot of mistakes.
What's that? What's that drawn with that one?
That's also like watercolor pencil, some ink, and some watercolor paints. And I don't usually start off with straight watercolor. Especially this paper is not even, it's inferior paper. It's not meant for all this work. So the paper starts wearing out and you have yourself a lot of problems. I need to start, rather than being so spontaneous, I need to start considering, using, I have better paper, but I'll start doodling on something, and it's not good paper. And then gradually, I don't want to give it up. And after a long time, it starts evolving into a painting. So I'm like bridging the gap between drawing and painting, basically.
So you're showing us a lot of these smaller pieces of art of yours from the book. Do you do more of your work oil on canvas?
I'm working on canvas, but I have a whole painting I can show you that I recently did, but I'll have to go in the studio. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
It took about 6 weeks. You want to see that? I'll show it to you. Hang on.
Well, before he comes back, in case the rest of you didn't follow that short dialogue I was having with Puskar, so that from your perspective, to the left of my face, you see a small painting of Srila Prabhupada. And that's something that Puskar painted, and that I got from him maybe 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, well, more. Okay, I'm trying to straighten this guy out. But it's a little lopsided, mostly warped, a little bit fish-eyed. But here,
that's canvas, Puskar.
This is canvas. This is oil. You see Advaitacharya is probably on your left, on my right. But
yep.
So what happened? This story about Kateri Gram is a book on Narottam. You probably have it. Sitala made a book, but she based her book on, Narottam Vilas, ancient old books, but she kind of put some conversation into it, made it a little more readable, I guess, for people. And so in Poland, they translated into Polish, and they asked me to do a cover for their book. And this is like a wraparound cover, and it'd be in the inside of the book. And you see, during this, I don't want to tell the whole story, but basically, Gornatai, who had disappeared, they appeared, the Panchatattva and Six Goswamis, they all appeared at this festival, the first great book reading festival. Anyway, you asked, so I showed, that's all. And I got to go. My daughter's having a thing, and wants me there. Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, if the rest of you would like to unmute for a second, you can join me expressing thanks to Puskar Prabhu.
Jai.
Puskar Prabhu ki jai. Haribol.
Haribol.
Don't overdo it.